And talking about the on-tap license and the RBI today releasing those guidelines. Joining us now to discuss this further is Ashvin Parekh of Advisory LLP. Sir, appreciate you joining us here. What do you make of the guidelines that have been announced by the Reserve Bank of India, and do you believe that there will be enough takers once again given the fact that conglomerates have been left out?
Well, I mean, if we look at, let's say, the number of applications which the RBI received last time, there were about 24 applications. And out of those 24 applications, I mean, we all know only 2 of them got the licenses. But, I mean, we also know for a fact that out of those 24 aspirants, I mean, originally it was 25, then Tata's withdrew, if I'm not making a mistake. So, I mean, now, large part of these, let's say, applications were from conglomerates or from business houses as it was defined then in the guidelines. This time around, even the draft exposure and now the guidelines very clearly say that the business houses will not be eligible for applying. So that reduces the number from out of 24 to very few. However, there are 2 things which are mentioned. One is there is a clarification on holding companies now, and that is to have a non-operating holding company. And also there is now clarity in regard what could be treated as a financial conglomerate compared to a business house. And to that extent, I thought some mid-sized NBFCs or professional NBFCs where the promoters do not have any other interest except the financial services, perhaps may become eligible. So I am seeing about 4 or 5 people in that space. Then, of course, if you look at the new guidelines, I mean the draft and the guidelines now, you do find that there is a good room that is being created for individuals, professional individuals who have been bankers in the past and who can really mobilize 500 crore of capital. 2 things have happened once again over there. Foreign capital can really go all the way up to 74%, which means it allows these kind of professional promoters who've been bankers earlier with foreign banks or with Indian private sector banks, who can really go out, raise money and put up an application. From the fit and proper point of view, as far as these entities or these people are concerned, I mean that is individuals are concerned or group of individuals are concerned, mainly the examination would be in terms of what work they did in banking and whether it was for more than 10 years or at least 10 years. So I mean, I thought the guidelines are encouraging professional bankers, I mean, who are in a position to mobilize capital to really come forward and set up the kind of banking and put up an application. So we will find a good mix of 2.
Mr. Parekh,
somewhere along, I thought the guidelines are still not very clear about.
I'll come back to you on where you feel the guidelines are not clear, but let me ask you on a very interesting point that you brought about, that the guidelines do seem to suggest that professional promoters will be encouraged, or at least they have leeway now to enter by way of a license. Do you see this as being a real possibility? Have you seen, there's been a lot of rumors, but do you see real interest of people who've had banking experience both in India, perhaps even abroad, coming together, putting together that requisite capital and seeking an on-tap license?
Well, actually, what has happened? This is very interesting. I mean, I cannot disclose the names of these entities, I mean, those individuals. But after the draft guidelines were issued, 2 people have really approached me, 2 sets of people. One from a US banking kind of a background and the other from the European banking background. And these people have showed interest and they are now working towards. So they had some time between the time the draft was done, and I'm confident that there would be more. So that was one observation I was making. And then there was, of course, one small observation which said that the broker, that is the security broking organizations, entities, which have grown adequately, who also run loan books now, and they come under RBI from the point of view of other financial service activities. There is no clarity this time. I mean, last time there was a mention in the previous guidelines saying that those who are engaged with speculative business, and speculative business was very categorically defined as business in securities or in real estate. This time around, I'm not seeing, I mean, going through the guidelines in detail, threadbare, but I'm not seeing that kind of a clarification. So one doesn't know what would really be the fate of such people. But I suppose if there is nothing against, then they could also come forward. In which case, we can still look at about 15, 16 applications.
Okay. How real is the possibility, and very quickly, we're running out of time, Mr. Parekh, and really from a business case point of view, because there's been a lot of talk about NBFCs, but from a business case perspective, do you really see NBFCs keen to make the switch over?
Well, the biggest attraction is the cost of funds. I mean, today they may mobilize the funds at a certain rate, which could well be in the region of about 12 plus. Whereas if they mobilize deposits and if they do CASA, then I suppose their effective cost can come down to 6.5%, 7%. And with a reduction in interest rates going, rates going further down or possibly going down, we may find that the banks, there is a good strong case of 5% spread, which can really attract NBFCs to get into, let's say, the banking business. So that attraction was always there, I thought, but it's real. That attraction is real.
All right, Mr. Parekh, we'll have to leave it there. Appreciate you joining us here on the big story of the day, the Reserve Bank putting out its guidelines for on-tap licenses. Ashvin Parekh, a former US banker and a former European banker. My brain is whizzing away trying to guess who those could be, but thanks very much for joining us with that story, sir. But the big